All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome everyone to 1MC Westminster. We're here live at Startup Portal and streaming to Facebook and Zoom this morning. Happy to see you all again. Coffee and baked goods are provided by Jean and Bird's Baking Company, and we still have our discount code for Furnace Hills Coffee. If you go to Furnace Hills Coffee Company, I think that's right, furnacehillscoffee.com, and use the discount code 1MC Westminster, all caps, one word. You can get, is it 20%, 25%? 25%. Very generous discount off of coffee at Furnace Hills. And I know we're all very excited to hear from our presenters, but before we get to that, we're just going to go over what we're all about here at 1MC, 1 Million Cups Westminster. So 1MC was started by the Kauffman Foundation, and their mission and our mission here is to lower the barrier for access to education, resources, and connections for entrepreneurs. Well, I guess so. Oh, of course, then I went too far. I guess it's just got to catch up.
Which slide do you want to be on?
The one right before this. Oh. There we go. Without our community and our core pillars, this mission cannot be accomplished. Next. So one more back. Sorry. We'll get this right.
Just go ahead.
All right.
Keep going.
So, so what are we looking for? We're looking for presentations, not pitches, and connections, not networking. We really want to get to know your business and the challenges that you face so that we can connect you to all the great resources that we have here in our community. Our core program, we meet every week, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. We have 2 presenters whenever possible. And presenters organization should be less than 5 years old and willing to ask for help, because we end every presentation with what can we as a community do to help you. And here's our organizing team, most of whom I think you see here behind me: Graham Dodge, Russ Hammett, Vicki Slinkman, John Wheatman, Tina Thomas, myself, Julia Snap, and Gabby Rose. And with that, we will jump into our presenter. So Johnny, I guess you can take it away.
Sure thing. Thank you. Also, I wanted to ask, am I the only presenter today? Just wanted to clarify.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, guys. And it's cool to present virtually. I obviously couldn't be where you are, but I appreciate you guys having me. I'm going to do a screen share. And can you just do a quick backflip or something and let me know if you guys see this screen?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, thumbs up. Not a backflip, but I'll take it. My name is Johnny Crowder, and I am the founder and CEO of Cope Notes, but something that you should know before I get into what I do is my background. So I grew up with a number of different mental illnesses, and I was in and out of treatment through K through 12, but also through college and afterwards. And I really just had a hard time finding a mental health resource that was reliable and consistent and didn't make me feel alienated, wasn't too expensive, and so on. So like probably every entrepreneur you have ever met through 1 Million Cups, I created a solution for a problem that I experienced firsthand. So I went to school for psychology and wound up running this company. So Cope Notes provides daily mental health support via text message. And a lot of people ask how we do that. And the answer is we use text messages to improve mental and emotional health. Very briefly, the problem is that the current mental health model neglects people like younger me and even current me. I'm concerned about accessibility. I'm concerned about privacy, social stigma, cost. And then by the time someone like me works up the courage to reach out to a provider and say, hey, I could really use some support, that provider inevitably says, sorry, We are underfunded, we're understaffed. If you can get in line, maybe we can reach you in a couple months, but until then, maybe you can just use a crisis resource. And as a result, our crisis resources in our communities are really overloaded, and communities are responding to crises rather than preventing them in the first place. And in the bubble at the top of the screen, you'll see that 50% or more of mental illness goes undiagnosed and untreated. So it's not just people who reach out for help that can benefit from help, because so few of us are actually aware of what we're experiencing. And I do want to clarify, this is not an app. Everyone I meet asks me, where can I download it? How come I don't see it on the App Store? It is not an app, and that's on purpose for a lot of reasons. You don't download anything. There are no passwords to remember, no software updates. You don't share personal identifying data. So there's a big, long list of reasons why we didn't make it an app. But the main three are engagement, preference, and equity. So on an engagement level, I don't know if you guys know this, but iOS app notifications have a 1.7% open rate. So that's less than 1 in 50 people actually open an iOS notification, and around 4% or 1 in 25 people open an Android app notification. So still very low engagement rates, whereas SMS, just plain old text messages, boast a 99% open rate. So it is far more effective way to engage somebody. In terms of preference, people always say, well, that's probably only true for youth. And that's not true. Actually, 97% of American adults prefer texting to any other medium. And then on an equity level, this is really our main reason for choosing SMS over everything else. There are 36 million Americans, or 11% of the US population, that rely on non-smart cellular devices, which means you can have a wonderful mental health app, but if nobody can download it because they're not using a smartphone, then it's not really reaching its full potential. So we didn't want to make a resource that couldn't be accessed by 36 million people in our country. Now the solution, Coke Notes, is really interesting. I'll do my best to keep this short and sweet and keep an eye on the 6-minute clock. All of our messages that we send people are written by peers with lived experience. So we have that peer support basis. They're not written by clinicians wagging their finger saying, this is what you should do. They're written by peers who have been there and experienced that. And they're texting people what they wish someone would have texted them when they were going through it. So there's a lot of empathy baked in. And then those messages aren't just sent out immediately. They are reviewed, edited, and approved by a clinical oversight panel. And these are the mental health professionals with long letters after their names that ensure that all of our text messages are based on proven psychological principles. They are trauma informed. They're applicable across demographics, so pretty important. And then those text messages, after they're written by peers and reviewed by clinicians, are delivered at random times. So no two people ever get the same text at the same time. It's not like one mass spam text that goes out to the whole list. Everyone has their own unique text sequence with Coke Notes, and these text messages are designed to interrupt negative thought patterns in real time, which I'll touch on in the next slide. And then we encourage our subscribers to journal back and speak freely, say whatever they want, whenever they want. And by doing that, they are boosting their emotional IQ, their emotional independence, and the accuracy of their self-report. I'm breezing past a lot of key terms, but we can talk about them during Q&A if you're curious. And then the reason why people feel like they can speak freely and say, I can't believe my husband did this, or how come my boss asked me about this? The reason why they feel safe enough to say that is because Coke Notes is 100% anonymous and confidential. So you could sign up right now and I would have no way of knowing that you did, because we don't even collect your address, your name, any personal identifying information whatsoever. Now, how it works on a neuroscience level, this is the coolest part. I actually gave a TED talk about the neuroscience behind Coke Notes. It's built on a principle called ecological momentary intervention, or EMI, which basically means that your brain is always thinking the most convenient thought, the one that will conserve the most calories. So the only way to challenge that thought is to interrupt it. So what we're doing is interrupting negative thought patterns with a catalyst for positive thought via text message. And over time, your brain starts to learn to think in healthier patterns. And those new resilient strategies and coping skills start to feel natural, but it does take time. Now, who we serve, we have a few different subscription options. One is obviously personal subscriptions. So we started out just doing B2C for people like you and me to sign up. And then we branched into gift subscriptions and family subscriptions. So you could bless people that you knew could benefit from some help, but you didn't want to constantly be texting them and all up in their business. And then we started getting a lot of enterprise level requests. So we have been serving schools, businesses, more recently, some governments like city and county governments, hospital systems, therapy and counseling offices. So we're over the last couple of years, we're branching a little more into that enterprise level offering. And our true north for pricing was always a full year of daily mental health support for less than the price of a single therapy session. So we really wanted to be affordable. A lot of our indirect competitors, because we're a sole source provider, but our indirect competitors will charge $260 a month, $300 a month, $400 a month, and Cope Notes is right around $10 a month. So we are an order of magnitude more affordable than those resources, very much on purpose. And this is the last slide I'll share with you guys. We have right around 21,000 users in 94 countries. And we experienced some pretty tremendous growth during COVID, as you could probably imagine. And we have a whole bunch of testimonials. In the interest of time, I won't read them, but they're on our website if you're curious. And the last thing I wanted to mention here is we've been collecting feedback. We have a really healthy feedback loop with our subscribers, and we're always asking them, what do you like? What don't you like? What features do you wish we would offer? What problem do you wish we could solve for you? And one of the questions we ask, or one of the things that we ask about, is their experience. Like, is Cope Notes making a discernible difference in your mental and emotional health? And through thousands, literally thousands of respondents, we've learned that 86% of our users report improved mental and emotional health within 30 days, which is mind-blowing. I certainly did not expect that. That's a really awesome stat to kind of mic drop on and end the presentation on. And then I'll leave this up as we go to questions, just because it has our contact information there. But I hope that was right around 6 minutes.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you, Johnny. So this seems pretty far along. How long have you been doing this now?
So it does seem that way. So we started, I started something called Not a Therapist in 2017, which was a peer support tool that wasn't quite like this. And then Cope Notes launched in 2018. Really, the first 2 years were mostly building. We were in market, but our revenue was like $7,000, and then the next year was like $17,000. So last year was our first year where we were actually fully in market, doing enough revenue to make real hires.
Wow, excellent. Any questions here from the group?
So how do you, I know you said you don't get any identifying information. How does that work for kids and young adults who might want to use this service?
So because I met with a HIPAA compliance officer early on when I was building this, and I basically asked, how do we stay on the right side of HIPAA? And what he suggested was collect as little personal identifying information as possible from everyone you serve. And slowly, item by item, he started whittling down our sign up form. Like, you can remove this and remove that. And we actually got it to a point where we can serve anyone of any age without parental consent because of how little information we do collect from our users. However, I will say that sometimes we'll partner with an enterprise client, like we have a foster youth program. We work with the foster youth program in Iowa, and they said sometimes we have to collect parental consent on our end. And I said, that works for you guys, but we don't actually need it on our end legally.
Gotcha. I guess that leading into that, I know a lot of young people, personally, who could really benefit, I think, from something like this, but they don't necessarily have their own phone. So I guess I'm curious if you considered any other like messaging do you have a Discord?
We we haven't
service
branched
or?
into any other forms of communication. And that's actually, you guys will be able to relate to this. When you build something, the temptation is always dev outside of dev, which is like, how many other auxiliary things can I build? Because I love building. So we've been really clear in our vision because actually not a therapist was multi-channel. So the beta version of this was you could use Facebook Messenger and Skype and all these different things. And when we started Cope Notes, we said we want to be the best mental health texting resource in existence. So in order to do that, we have kind of had to say no to pursuing these other channels. And really the focus was not only to make sure that we are optimizing for SMS, but also some of these other resources don't have the anonymity or reliability that SMS has. But beyond that, we have to make sure that we are sticking to the neuroscience principle upon which Cope Notes is built. So app notifications just don't get the same level of engagement. SMS is really where we want to live right now. In the future, we might build out, but for right now, our focus is SMS.
Years ago, there was a company called Ginger.io that had a way of determining, I think, mental health by your habits of your phone. And they had some sort of algorithm. Are you using something similar in order to interrupt the negative thoughts? Like, how do you know when the person's having negative thoughts?
Such a cool question. Actually, Ginger is still a company and they just merged with Headspace. I believe it was like this big giant merger. So apparently they've been blowing up. But interesting question. Right now we are working with USF Health on a somewhat similar project, but it is requiring years upon years of research and like millions of dollars in funding for the National Institute of Health. So we are like in the planning and application stages with that. We have been for a couple of years. In the meantime, actually my old deck used to say it, 80% of our daily thoughts are negative in nature. So there is an extremely high likelihood that you will receive a text message during a negative thought pattern, a lot of which are subconscious. But beyond that, even if you receive one of these text messages during a positive thought pattern, this can serve to reinforce it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That's amazing that 80% of our thoughts are negative.
The wild thing is we use a lot of calories trying to fight them. Like those negative thoughts. Wait, we'll talk about it afterward because I'm going to soapbox it, but I went to school for psych and I love neuroscience. So maybe at the end we can talk about that, but it's my favorite topic.
Anybody else have a question? Rick Weinbach.
First of all, I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but do you have a mother-in-law Christmas gift package?
You know, this is live stream,
Yeah,
right?
I know, I'm just kidding. Sorry. But can you, from the standpoint of your infrastructure, people, you know, obviously it's you, but what does your staff look like?
So well, first of all, the gift subscription thing, we actually do have a, we can personalize, or you can personalize the gift subscription, and you can also set a start date. So we started doing that so people could do like a Christmas gift or a Valentine's gift or whatever they wanted. So that does exist. I know it was kind of joking, but I did want to clarify that you can do that. And as for infrastructure, to be honest, for the first year, it was the Johnny Crowder show, and it wasn't pretty because I'm not a technical founder. So I was like repurposing SMS marketing software online and making a million human errors. And then we started working with our now CTO as a contractor in 2019. And then we started working with more contractors in 2020. And then this year's the first year we actually have, this is freaky because it's a big step for us. We have 5 full-time W-2 employees, and we now have 9 part-time or contract employees. So it has been like very small team, very small team, very small team. And then now I'm like having to read all these books on leadership and book all hands meetings. And I'm in like a leadership crash course right now.
Is that driven by your revenue or by fundraising?
Well, believe it or not, we have not raised any funds Part of it was because of the absolute foolishness of every 20 something that starts a company, which is like, get out of my way, I can do this myself. But then also, I will admit that there was a level of impatience, because when we did meet with some folks who were interested in investing, they would say, yeah, we'll be able to get you the money in 9 months. And I think, man, if I spend the next 9 months trying to impress these guys, or the next 9 months in market, doing demos, learning what customers want, working on the product, I have a fair shake at earning that in revenue. So believe it or not, it's all been revenue. We are bootstrapped, and that is why we have to be very intelligent about how we do market research, which is why I'm such a huge fan of 1 million cups, because I've learned so much from these calls that I'm sure other companies that raise money, they just go pay market analysts,
Wow, that's
Congrats,
commendable.
great job.
Yeah. Any other questions for Johnny?
Speaking of market analysts, how do you market this? How do you find those that are not only in need, but willing to spend the money for it?
That's an awesome question. And actually, that's a big reason why I'm doing 1 million cups again, because I haven't done it since basically pre-COVID. I took like kind of a year and a half of not really doing 1 million cups. And again, being in my 20s, I was like, I could figure it out without doing 1 million cups. And now I'm coming back to do these presentations because I really want feedback and suggestions on go-to-market. So originally when I started Cope Notes, it was all B2C. So I figured, what the heck, you run some Facebook ads and it'll figure itself out, as if anything is that simple. And then when we started getting more enterprise requests, I was like, shoot, I'm gonna have to build a sales team, and we have to manage a pipeline and stuff. So right now we hired 2 full cycle account executives, so salespeople who are gonna take from prospect to close. I am actually, this week is their first week in market, so say a prayer, cross your fingers or whatever, because I hope they do well. But until now, it has been all inbound. So word of mouth has been awesome. Like, we've had a fair amount of press, like organic press. We wound up on the front page of Reddit, which was horrifying because our computer or our database basically exploded. And then I also do a lot of public advocacy. So like I said, I went to school for psych, and I haven't been paying myself for like 4 years. I just added myself to payroll a few weeks ago. And until then, I was doing public advocacy for a living. So I would go to a school or a conference or a fundraiser, some type of event, and give a keynote about mental health awareness, social stigma, sexual consent, sobriety, and things like that. And a fair amount of enterprise interest has come from that, just because sometimes the people at those events are enterprise level buyers.
Your passion permeates.
I can't help.
Scott, take a question.
Sure, Johnny, you were just talking about this a little bit with your sales team, but I think the potential for enterprise and organizations, corporations is there. It's probably not a big part of your profits now. But when you think about it, the organizations that are offering EAP programs, there's a lot of pushing back from employees because of the privacy issues. So do you find that's a good sell point for what you offer?
100%. So I live in Tampa, and there's this big hospital like network called Tampa General Hospital. It's not just one hospital, it's like a bunch of satellite locations. So it would be a pretty big client. And after a few meetings with them, they said, in order to bring this to our like leadership to present it to them and pitch it to them, I, being Holly, the woman I was working with, she said, I need to bring them kind of a comparison chart between EAPs and Cope Notes. And I was like, you are just setting me up for success. So we built a comparison chart, and every single major snag that employers have with an EAP regarding privacy, regarding logistics, or any of it, availability, limitations with how often you can utilize an EAP, Cope Notes addresses all of those. So it's actually, it helps us when a a potential client, a prospect says, oh, people don't really use our EAP. I'm like, I know exactly why they're not using it, you know?
You mentioned, you said a couple keywords regarding that sort of indicate you're a person of faith and you're wearing a cross around your neck. I'm just curious, what role has your faith or spirituality played in your sort of entrepreneurial journey and your mental health journey?
So I'm glad you are bringing this up. I wouldn't be doing any of this if God wasn't in the picture. So you guys need a little bit of context. I grew up basically furious at all things faith related. So I used to be in a death metal band called Dark Sermon, and it was upside down and pentagrams and candles and animal bones, and it was all like as evil as I could possibly be. And we were signed to two really big labels. We were touring full time. It was my whole life. And I never expected, I had basically decided that faith was not for me, and God decided differently. So in like 2014, I think, was when I finally started being a little more open, and it really shaped the direction of my life. In all honesty, as a full-time touring musician, I never made a living wage. And then I finally got my first salary job. It was $28,000 a year. So like literally not enough to live on in Tampa, but it was salary. It was finally my first opportunity to have a reliable income. And then God's like, you should quit your only salary job to start a company that is not going to pay you for 4 years. So I definitely wouldn't be doing any of this if I didn't feel led to serve other people, because there have been components of it that have been rewarding. But if you're talking spending like 1,700 days building something that doesn't feed you, it is really challenging to wake up the next day and do it. We lost some really huge deals last year due to COVID, and I was very, very close to quitting the company. So there have been many instances where my faith in God and my desire to serve other people, because I've already received that I feel loved, so I need to go and love other people. There have been many moments where that thought is the only thing standing between me and completely closing our doors. Last year was really like a dark night of the soul kind of year for the company.
Wow, well, congratulations on all your success and for sticking through it. It seems like it's paying off, and I want to be respectful of your time because I know you're running a fairly big company now. You get lots of people. Any last questions here from the group?
I do, in regards to growth in HR. I know that this is happening kind of fast for you, but I guess the question is, you said you have 2 people who are in sales. What are the other people doing? Are they tech? Do you have advisors on the mental health side, even though you seem to know what you're doing on that side? Do you have people you bounce things off of? And from an HR growth, how am I becoming a leader standpoint? Do you have any feedback on your experience so far?
Yeah, so the other folks who are not doing sales are doing tech and then like account management and user experience. So a little bit of product, a little bit of like systems and logistics and SOPs. And I just learned what SOPs stands for this year. So I'm like, I'm telling you guys, I am reading a ton of books, listening to a ton of podcasts. Our clinical oversight panel actually is not on staff. Believe it or not, our clinical oversight panel is volunteer based. So we have around 24 clinicians who have volunteered to serve in that role only because I had been volunteering in the mental health space for a decade before I even asked any of these people for a favor. So I think when I came to them last year, the year before, and I said, hey, you know how I've done, like 1,000 hours of community service work for your organization over the past 10 years. Can you please look at some text messages for me? And they're like, yes, of course, I will help you with that. So as we grow, I think one of the biggest challenges right now for me is making sure that we're maintaining diversity in a growing team. We have one woman working for us and 0 non-white full-time employees. So kind of a concern for me as we grow to make sure that, we have users in 94 countries. So we serve all over the world. It is really important to me that as we grow, those different perspectives are being represented in our messaging, in our actual product decisions. So it's very top of mind as I continue to hire. And the other thing is, we are a remote team. So only 3 of us live in Tampa, where I live. And I'm one of them. So really only 2 other people besides me. Almost everyone is remote. So I'm having to find ways to keep everyone on the team engaged emotionally and socially with the team, like helping them feel like they're a part of something. And we're working on like group projects together. I started doing like a word of the week and a challenge related to the word that all of us have to complete so that we can all learn from each other and give little mini presentations to the team, and we can talk about social things. So maintaining that group energy is a little bit challenging remotely, but I'm doing my best to maintain it.
And so what can we up here in Westminster, Maryland do to help you?
Really, I think the go-to-market thing is really what I am most curious to hear from people about. Like, for example, a year and a half ago, we didn't have any government clients. And one person that we met in Orlando was like, have you ever tried working with a county government, their health and human services department? I said, no. And they said, well, let me make an email intro. And it turned into our first government contract ever. And now that's a vertical for us that we pursue. So I don't know what I don't know. I'm from the psychology side. So the business side of things is something that I'm learning over these last 4 years. So really, I would say any kind of go-to-market ideas or strategies, or even like connections or introductions, those types of things have taught us more about what our product can be and what our company can solve than anything else.
All right, well, we've got your contact information. If anybody here has introductions they can make, we'll certainly coordinate that, facilitate that for you. And in terms of just sharing, this with our friends and family, I assume, what's the domain name for Cope Notes?
It's just
CopeNotes.com. I see it. Okay. So, and can we follow you on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah. So if you want the Cope Notes social media information, because we've been a one-man show for so long, we aren't really active on those channels, at least not yet. We're going to start being active in the next couple months because I need to delegate that to somebody, which is another thing I'm learning, delegation. You can't do everything yourself. But my personal social media, I am on LinkedIn, which is probably where I'm most active. I do have a personal Facebook, and then I do have an Instagram personally. I actually do, when someone was asking how you do marketing, a lot of our interest from the market has come from my personal platform. So rather than investing an hour into a Cope Notes LinkedIn post that I am really careful about crafting and nurturing, I actually do that on my personal LinkedIn, and we've had more business come from that than from the business page, because I'm a very like build out loud type of founder. So if you are a social media person, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, I'm on all 3 of those. And then Twitter, the company has a Twitter, but like I said, we're not super active just yet.
Do you have an affiliate program?
We do. There's at the bottom of our website, you'll see, I think it says become an affiliate. It's like in the footer, and you can click that. It's like the most straightforward thing you'll ever see. It's very simple.
Excellent. All right, any more questions? Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to an update maybe in a few months or so, whenever you have more to update us about. We'd love to follow your journey. Thank you.
I appreciate it a ton, guys. Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're still streaming to Facebook Live. Does anybody want to say anything or mention anything? Chris, you want to talk about your trunk or treat coming up while we're broadcasting still?
Yeah.
Sure. Hi, Chris. I manage the Restore down 433 Han Road. We're having a trunk or treat, a nonprofit trunk or treat on October 29th from 5 to 7 p.m. Come out. We're going to have music. We'll have a costume contest and come out and get some candy.
So October 29th, that's a Friday. At what time?
5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Friday, 5 p.m. to 7
We'll be
p.m.
there, Magic will be there.
Yeah, Magic will have a
trunk.
Magic mobile.
We will have a trunk.
We're gonna have magical
Treats.
candy,
Yes.
magical treats.
Any other updates from anybody? No? All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and end the stream and let everybody else get on with their day. Thank you for joining us, everybody, on Facebook. And again, if you don't want to miss out on Genie Bird free butterhorns and coffee, you gotta come out here to Startup Portal. And thanks again to Rick Leinbach from Startup Portal and the whole team here for hosting us once again.
Yep, sometimes we have one presenter, sometimes we have two. And next week it could be you or someone you know, because the ecosystem of entrepreneurs is here to help you. So come chat with us. You never know what you could do.
Thank you, Tina. All right, everybody. Have a good day.